As you may have guessed from the title of this one, this isn't my normal far from stock video. Usually I take a look at what's going on in the actual NASCAR Xfinity series and talk about how the cars work. But if I do this right, this video should come out on the same day as a new movie called Final Destination Bloodlines. As a fan of horror movies myself, I actually kind of like these Final Destination movies, and if you've seen any of them, you probably know that there's actually a race scene involved in the fourth movie. So what I want to do is take a look at it from the perspective of a NASCAR mechanic and let you guys know just how realistic or unrealistic it might be. Now I do want to give a content warning here. These movies are very graphic, and I will do my best to edit out the worst of it, while still giving you an idea of what's actually going on in the clip. But by the nature of it, there is going to be some violence included in this video, and if that's anything that bothers you, that's totally okay. Feel free to click off, check out one of my other videos, or anything like that. I totally understand, and I hope to see you next time. To kick it all off, this scene is loosely based on the 1955 Le Mans disaster, but I'm not going to go into any details about that really here. There are some similarities with the real life event, but ultimately that's not really what my channel is for. Feel free to do some research on that on your own if you're interested in something like that. Is this a real racetrack? Actually, yes and no. It's a mixture of a real racetrack and a set that they built just for the movie. The track itself is actually Mobile International Speedway down in Alabama. Anytime you see the race cars roaring past the front stretch wall where it says McKinley Speedway and it shows the big grandstands, that's actually a set that was created for the movie. And I also want to clear up one other quick thing. This isn't actually a NASCAR race. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people talking about this series and will call this scene a NASCAR race. And I get it. I do. It is stock cars, it is a circle track, and it does look like it's a grander scale than what your normal typical weekly racetrack might be. As a matter of fact, that's really what the filmmakers were going for with this scene. They wanted you to think NASCAR. So really, the filmmakers actually did a pretty good job of selling it. But, like I said, this is not a NASCAR race actually. These are late model cars. And while they do share some similarities with NASCAR, they are very different, and they do race on a much smaller scale than NASCAR does. NASCAR is a very nationwide and even worldwide sometimes event, whereas late model events are typically fairly local. But you can tell by the way that pit road is decorated and some of the things that they do that this is inspired by NASCAR. And somebody on the film crew was definitely a NASCAR fan. It definitely shows up in some of the smaller details. Now, first thing, pretty much as soon as the clip starts here, or at least where I'm starting it, pit stops are very rarely ever done live when it comes to late model racing. In fact, pit stops are rarely ever done at all in late model racing. Usually if they need fuel or if they need tires, it's between races, as the races aren't really long enough to destroy a set of tires or run a tank out of gas like they might be in a NASCAR race. But again, the film wanted you to think NASCAR, not local late model, so I get it. As a quick side note, if you look at the guys in the clip that are headed to the right side of the race car when it pulls in, they aren't actually doing anything at all. They're just kind of looking and putting their hands on the body of the race car. If you look at the jackman in the back on one of the other cars, he's using just a regular pump jack, and as someone in the sport, I think that's just really funny. Now here you see a guy putting a screwdriver or something into what's called a catch can vent. Now this is a real thing that NASCAR did. In fact, they did it all the way up until 2011. You see, these dump cans, they dump fuel at such a fast rate that the air in the tank has to go somewhere for the fuel to be able to go in as quickly as it can. These catch can vents used to be where a pit crew member would hold a box up against the rear of the race car, and this would catch overflow fuel that comes out as the dump can is pushing fuel in. And if you notice, the fuel man is not using a vented dump can like we have nowadays. This hose is supposed to go down to the fuel head and would allow a flow of air to come back up into the dump can, which is how we do it nowadays, as it makes it a little more safe. So this is an actual setup that could be used. Now, it's not legal in a NASCAR setting, but neither is any of these guys not wearing helmets, so I think we can throw some of that out the window here. And a lot of late models, especially since they don't really do live pit stops, don't even have this vent, because you don't really need it when you just fill it up from a normal can like you might have to fill your lawnmower. And once you see this crew member stick the screwdriver in the vent, he goes around to the rear window with a ratchet wrench and a long extension, and he puts it in the back window, a lot like you might see during a NASCAR pit stop, supposedly to make an adjustment to what's called the wedge, and I'll have a video going over what all that is later on. But the main thing here is that that's not really how late models work. You see, in NASCAR, there's a spring hat that sits on top of the rear springs, and there's a long extension that goes up almost to the back window, maybe a few inches below it, and guys on the pit stop will take a wedge wrench and put in it, and they can use this extension and wrench to adjust how much pressure is on the rear springs. Again, I'll have a video going over this in more detail, but just to show you the difference, this is what a rear suspension setup on a late model might look like. The shock in the spring is a coilover assembly, not a separate spring with a way to adjust it from the rear window like there is in NASCAR. So again, very NASCAR inspired and helps to sell it, but he's not actually doing anything here. He's just holding his fist on the extension and against the rear window to keep it from falling in, just to sell the illusion. And some more Hollywood movie magic here. I doubt if you're running a race long enough for everybody to have to start making pit stops that everyone would be this packed up right in the middle of the race. But I guess benefit of the doubt, it could have been a restart that we didn't see. Who knows? Here's where it really starts to go off the rails. A blown tire is not going to cause a flip by itself like this. Now yes, it can lead to a flip, but normally you see flips when you're on one of the really high speed tracks like Daytona or Talladega, and a car goes backwards or sideways and air catches it right. That can flip over a race car. Or if you go through the grass and a wheel digs into the grass, that can flip a race car over. But just blowing a tire on asphalt is not going to flip a car. And in fact, you can even see that this flip reuses the same part of the wreck a couple of times, which makes sense. It's expensive to wreck one of these race cars, so they're trying to get everything they can out of it, and that's fair. And unless you're analyzing it like I am here, you're probably not even going to notice. But this flip is highly exaggerated. Matter of fact, there's a clip right here of what that actual flip looked like when they filmed it. Now here you see both front tires have come off. Sure, I guess, maybe, but it's really unlikely that that would just happen. Tires coming off in the event of a wreck is usually because a lot bigger suspension components got ripped off, as that's a much weaker attachment point than the tire to the hub is. But again, I guess benefit of the doubt, it could potentially happen, sure. But the way they bounce around is definitely not realistic. Another thing that's not very realistic at all is the explosions that are happening right now. Race cars don't explode from just running into each other. If you're watching my channel, you've probably seen races before and you've probably seen wrecks before, and none of those involve explosions. Can you get large amounts of fire and even a fireball erupting at points? Yeah, maybe, if everything is right and there's a ton of sparks around and somebody's leaking something from the wreck. Sure, that's happened, but not at all like this. And here you see the catch fence where the race car just kind of goes through it like it's not even there. In all honesty, it's probably not actually there. I'm sure they added the catch fence in post for this scene. But in the real world, catch fences actually work much better than this. Take for example Carl Edwards in 2009 when he flips in Talladega, coming to the end of the race. That is a perfect example of how well these catch fences actually hold up to a 3,500 pound stock car. You can also look at Austin Dillon in 2015 at Daytona. Same thing, he runs into the fence. Could there be a couple of injuries from some of the smaller debris making it through the catch fence? Sure, maybe, but it's absolutely nothing like this. Now hold your keyboards. Before you start typing that comment, I'm going to address something real quick. You might be thinking, sure, it does that because it's an old racetrack. That's why the catch fence doesn't work so well. Well, just to remind you, this movie came out in 2009, the same year as the Carl Edwards flip. And this is, sure, a dilapidated facility, but that catch fence looks an awful lot like a normal modern catch fence. It's not run down with rust or anything like that, so I'm pretty sure it should hold up okay. As a matter of fact, here's an example of a wreck at Talladega in 1987 when Bobby Allison ran into the catch fence. And if catch fence technology in 1987 was this good, I'm pretty sure you're not going to have a race car fly through it. Especially since this is a short track, this isn't a full-size super speedway like Daytona or Talladega are. Alright, this is really starting to lose me a little bit here. This racetrack is only a half of a mile long. I know it's not very highly banked like Bristol is, and these cars aren't quite as fast as they would be if it was a NASCAR stock car, but laps around this racetrack in a late model are about 18 to 20 seconds long, and here we are still wrecking 30 seconds after the initial flip. Yikes, these are the least attentive drivers I have ever seen. Can you say ARCA brakes? Now, an explosion's not going to make a hood fly like this. This is just simple physics. It would take a highly directional force, not an explosion that's going out in all directions, to make a hood fly like this, but oh well. Yeah, no. For the same reasons a car can't fly into the stands, this is extremely unlikely to happen. Alright, seriously, it's been over a minute since the initial flip, and we're still wrecking? Oh boy. So not only are we still wrecking, there's still enough momentum in the crash for a car to end up in the stands like this? Yeah, that can't happen. So that's really the end of the premonition clip, but there's one other thing to note as far as the racing in this movie goes. You see here the tires flying over the stands, and it's a Final Destination movie. Even if you've never seen this movie before, or if you've only seen it right here in this video, you can probably assume what's going to happen. So I don't need to show that. I just wanted to point out that there's absolutely no way a tire would get this high over the stands from a race crash. Especially not at a half-mile short track where the speeds are way too low for a wreck like this to even happen in the first place. So you can see that these cars and this wreck and this racetrack and everything about it is very Hollywood. It's not exactly realistic in any sense. They did get some small details right, but the basis of it being a late model race instead of a NASCAR race makes some of those details wrong, and it's all just selling the illusion that it's a NASCAR race. And in that case, they actually did really well. Like I said, a lot of people come to me and talk about this scene as a NASCAR race, but ultimately, no, this isn't realistic at all. You don't have to be afraid of going to a race because of something like this happening. It is absolutely impossible. But for now, I'm far from stock, and
I'll see you soon.
Hey, don't forget, if you like what you saw, maybe give the video a like and maybe even subscribe if you want to see more. Don't forget to leave topic suggestions down in the comments below, as that will really help me make sure that I'm bringing you guys the information you want.